I do think it is very time consuming. You can still have a life outside of your business or your startup, but I think it will be challenging. And so that is something that you would want to discuss with a significant other, and it should be kind of a joint decision before you kind of enter on this path.
It's absolutely false. No, if you prioritize well, if you decide well, you do have a personal life. It is tough, but as an entrepreneur, if you do not have an option, you have to find a way to make it work.
Whether we have a personal life or not is ultimately down to us. In fact, people become entrepreneurs pursuing a sense of autonomy that it gives them. And if one thing autonomy gives you, it's exactly how you want to configure your work-life balance.
It is my belief that entrepreneurs cannot afford not to have a personal life. Allow yourself time to idle, to rest, to recharge. It is when this reservoir of energy is refilled, then you are able to consistently make good decisions.
I do think you can reduce the risk by thinking ahead. And so you can do a lot of due diligence, you can do research, you can do market research. All this stuff is going to put you in a better position and reduce the risk of starting a company.
If you're devoting it for your own venture, you do end up taking risk of letting it go. So in that context, yes, it requires high amount of risk-taking ability.
We often think about risks in terms of all or nothing gambles, but the reality is that entrepreneurs take measured risks. They have a clear understanding of the downsides they face in terms of time or money they spend on the business. It is with that sense that they step forward.
Entrepreneurship does involve taking risks, but in my opinion, it is more about managing risks and measuring risks against expected returns.
Yeah, I don't think you come out of the womb as like the next Steve Jobs. I do think people have a bit more of an affinity to creating things or taking certain types of risks or can get something off the ground.
It's absolute false. I think entrepreneurship is something that can be picked up, that can be learned. You do have certain frameworks, certain guidelines, but more importantly, there's a lot of learning that you can have from existing entrepreneurs, old entrepreneurs, where you can pick up from the mistakes and build on top of that. So I think it's absolutely learnable skill for any individual.
While it's true that some people are naturally more curious or bold, other things such as knowledge, learning, leadership, social skills, these are things that we develop as we go through life.
It actually really depends on the type of business you want to build and the industry you want to build it in.
1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, and I mean it rhymes, but I think it is true. Like an idea is just like a really small part of it. So much is the execution.
Many a times when you go to visit some folks and they say, I have a great idea, and they explain the idea and they pause, thinking that everybody will start clapping. But ideas are worthless till you have a great execution behind it. So I would suggest for anyone who's thinking ideas is the be-end and end-all, it's far away from truth. It requires high level of rigor and execution that converts an idea to a real business.
Well, a good idea cannot do anything by itself. It needs to be executed. In that sense, ideas are cheap. What matters is how they're executed and taken forward.
Now, don't get me wrong, a good idea is really important. But at every stage of the company, different prerequisites are needed. At the earliest stage, a good idea is a necessary but not a sufficient condition. Other conditions need to be met.
Nope, disagree. There are lots of ways to fund your business. You can bootstrap it. That is when you use your own money or money that the company is generating to continue to fund it. VC money is great, but for a very specific type of business.
Absolute false. Venture capitalists or VCs are just one form of capital available to you. There are multiple other forms of capital that you can go to build your own venture. As you're seeking building your venture, going and doing a bootstrap venture is equally rewarding, because at the end of the day, once you have built the venture out and if you have not diluted a lot of the equity at the early stage of your career, you would be very, very happy at the point of time when you are monetizing and when you see the wealth that you have created for yourself.
Well, we know that quite a lot of very successful businesses, in fact, billion-dollar businesses, have been started with very small amounts of capital. So that pretty much debunks that myth.
When raising financial capital from venture capitalists, ask yourself, what is the cost of this capital? How much of the company are you giving up? Might there be other ways to obtain the financial capital that you need?